Hey, Mr. Heman Smith, this is Ted King. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yourself, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It's another beautiful day. On the weather, and uh, if we could brainstorm and come together and think about some of the topics that we are doing. And this is a series, the most dangerous combat sport in the world, American politics. We're on now. This is what we're doing now. Normally, Mr. Smith and I, we do on uh, Sundays, which is the biblical agreements and discourse, and we normally do that. But this is a new format, which is I'm trying to get us situated here. And I see that it looks a little funny, but I guess we're uh, yeah. So that's basically it's the race movement. And so were you around when the civil movement began,
Yes, I
Mr.
was.
Smith?
I hear a little static on this end, Ted. When you talk, I hear a little static coming through.
Okay, last
Yeah,
that.
a little bit.
Let's see. Let's see if we can take care of that because appears to be okay. I think I might have got something straight here. How's it? Is it still sounding staticky?
It's improving.
It's improving. Okay. All right, I'm back now. Yeah, I lost the
Okay.
stream for a moment. I think that might be. Is that a little better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, every now and again, I guess we lose these based on wherever we lose the string, but we're back now. And so because I've been doing a lot of my dialogue on this civil rights. I've been doing a lot of videos actually. You can if you get a chance to, you can look at some of the. And, been doing a lot of videos on this political climate that we're in, based on the erosion of the objectives, the programs that consist. Oh, let me see. Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
I lost you. I guess I did lose you. Hold on a second here. I keep going on and off. Uh, so from my perspective, show from my perspective, there may we could have done differently to make sure that would have not mattered. You know, because we do videos, Sunday videos, and or I should say lives. It's more like live, not videos. But always the question is, that how did Donald Trump, with he's become the president of the United States? And I hear that a lot of times. So what is your take on that?
I think,
Why did Donald
I think,
Trump? Why do you think Donald
I
Trump?
think that's a good thing. He went that route. If you look at history, politics is the engine of this country. And what they did in the past, they denied people their voice in the political system. And one way to deny their voice was criminal justice system. If you're incarcerated, you can't vote. If you committed a crime, you cannot vote. So you reduce the people's voice in the political system. That way, you reduce your opposition, you reduce your those who oppose your view, and you retain more monetary status. And what Donald Trump did was
Right.
blew that off the wall. Now you can have a felony conviction and hold office. In the past, if you had a felony, you couldn't run for office. If you had a felony, you couldn't hold office. You couldn't
Right.
even vote. Donald Trump has broken that door wide open. So the individual
Okay.
in the who've been incarcerated, like my man who was on trial for in New York. What's the famous politicians? I mean, the famous guy who's was on trial, found guilty for sexual assault. He's a rapper.
You talking about Diddy Combs, John.
He can run for president. He can be our next president. The guy who was involved with the trafficking to that island, he took all the celebrities. He killed himself in while being incarcerated. What's his name? I can't recall his name. When he got out, he could become the U.S. president. Where in the past, that was a barrier, an obstacle to keep people out of the political process. Okay, so that could be the U.S. could be the
You
U.S.
just had to.
president. He could be U.S. president. Well,
Could be.
before he couldn't vote if he had a felony conviction.
Okay.
So if you go back in time, all the people
Right.
that were incarcerated who were denied their right to vote because they had a felony on their record. Now, because Donald Trump has 34, is in the highest office on the land, that blows the door wide open. Wide open. So you come
So you're saying, yeah, right. So you're saying,
right,
in other
right,
words, he set a standard. In
right.
other words, yeah, right. Yeah, that now the felony, that individual who's been incarcerated actually get out and run for president without a problem, because Donald Trump has set the precedence that you can be you can still become president of the United States.
Right.
That's an argument. That's a great. That means that's what happened, right?
Right.
So obviously that's a great argument to say, look, Donald Trump had felonies. He became president. You know, yeah. But I was looking at some doing my research and looking at some videos because Donald Trump. Well, actually, a couple of different content creators. One said that Donald Trump is playing the what was from? It was a book from Du Bois.
Right.
Um, the white people, poor white people, are not, for example, they may not have gotten land, they didn't get anything monetary, but what they did was is they were able to get status in terms of things going to jail or things like, for example, housing, etc. They didn't have any money, but they still had certain perks. So Donald Trump is able to, okay, you're still white, they'll give you perks. If and another content creator said that Donald Trump, why they let Donald Trump do whatever he wants to do is because he is doing what they wanted. What they wanted is that back in when Trump, when Truman was running against his opposition, I can't remember who the gentleman was. He was a Dixiecrat. The um, once the civil rights came in, rights bill, those Democrats flipped and went over there to revoke those allegations that were at the time, and of course, I guess the civil rights bill was incepted as far as the kind of assassinated a year later, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and in 1964. Well, those Democrats, they shifted from Democrat, and so now they made Donald Trump the as they call him, like the Ku Klux Klan leader, Grand Poobah, whatever. Anyway, like that. I don't have the video in front, otherwise I would play it. But I just wanted to go ahead and do a little quick, a live on the subject because I wanted to. But you made a great point when you said that Donald Trump has set a precedent. Go ahead,
And when
sir.
you say perks, when Lincoln let black people free, when slavery ended, guess who were the first persons to get reparations? Slave owners. He gave them reparations because
Okay,
they had lost their slaves. So I think
right. Proclamation, yeah,
100 slave owners received reparations because they had to let go of their slaves, and they were the first one. And then when
right.
slaves,
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, it was reported that that's true. The South in the South, they did not, they lost their slaves. In the North, they were able to keep them. That's what was been recorded. That in fact, states they lost their slaves. Were a slave owner in the northern states. This is what was been reported. Now I had to do my research on this, but they were able. So what was it? The proclamation. What was that called? The proclamation. Uh, where they anyway, it'll come to me. What it is? It's the proclamation. Oh my gosh! But anyway, it's I'll get it up here. But that's basically what it was reported. It was reported that if you were fact check this now because this is what I was doing my research, and of course I didn't write anything down because I wanted to go this with you because get on and talk about this. Of course, we'll the lives will get a little bit more easier and flowing a little easier. And basically, what we're doing, we're uh, this signal right now. But
Okay.
okay, so proclamation
Yep.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let me do it like this. Let me do it like this. That Lincoln, how to free the slave.
1965.
Yeah, it's okay, Emancipation Proclamation. That's what it is. President Abraham Lincoln did not use a issued the Emancipation, a presidential order on January 1st, 1863, which Confederate held states free. This was a critical war measure that transformed the Civil War into a fight for freedom to serve in the Union military. However, it immediately ended slavery in all parts of the country, as it did not apply to borders loyal to the area of the forces. Ultimately abolished nationwide by the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in 1865. So let me read that again. Slavery was nationwide by the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in 1865. So I guess we'll get a history lesson right now on what happened, right? Emancipation.
Yeah, what happened was when that took place, uh, the South said, "Oh, okay, we gotta let our people that were in who were in bondage go." So what they did, they said they'll be
Right.
able to vote. So what they did, they said, "Well, if they commit a crime, they can't vote." So after they were freed, they passed laws that say if you're not doing anything, you're loitering, you're committing a crime. And they said, since you're free, what we're going to do is you can use your freedom now. You become a sharecropper. You work for us, and we will determine your compensation and we determine your expenses. And it really didn't change much.
Okay.
You know what really changed slavery? The boll weevil.
What's
The
that?
boll weevil changed it. It came up
Okay.
all the all the time in the South. So a lot of black people had to migrate to the North
Uh,
because the boll weevil came from Mexico. You see how God works? The
ah,
boll came
yeah.
in from all the cotton. So black people said, well, I need, so they all migrated to the North because of the boll weevil. They have
Okay.
statues of the boll weevil
Okay.
in the South, actual statues
Okay.
of the boll. And what happened was they used the political system, used the incarceration. Now, when slavery was removed, it was kept in one place, incarceration.
Mm.
Incarceration. They kept bondage in it was excluded from everything else, but except for you went to jail. And when you went to jail, the farmers would hire the criminals. They would pay the system so much to loan them the criminals to farm their land. So it just changed. It just shifted everything. It was really not much of a change, but God stepped in and sent the boll weevil that ate all, consumed. It went from state to state, and black people went to the north.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, that's how really things changed. And when I look at it in the past, like for example, you mentioned the Civil Rights Act, and I think it was
Uh-huh.
July 64th.
Okay.
When you have progress, it's like your hair. Your hair grows, and then you get it cut, and then it grows back. It grows and grows, you get it cut. 1919, Herbert Hoover was the same thing as Donald Trump. He removed people out of positions because of their race. He brought in the Birth of a Nation film into the White House. So it was the same thing as Donald Trump. To have growth, you have to have
Right.
difficulties. Out of difficulties grow miracles, which is the reason why there is evil in this on this planet. Out of evil will come goodness. So to appreciate goodness, you got to have evil. There's a saying that the Hindu said, all rich men sooner or later will have a life as a beggar, as a beggar, sooner or later. And when you look at in the
Mm.
past, in the future, it's like politics is like a shepherd, okay? And we the people are like its flock. And it depends on the shepherd what will take place. Now, when you look at Jesus, he went to a place and they had 5,000 people and they were hungry. He only had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. At the end of the day, everybody got fed. They collected 12 baskets of uneaten food that was not consumed. So the shepherd took care of his flock. He didn't look at the flock and say, "What can I get from you?" He said, "What can I give to you?" It's not what you take up, it's what you give up that determines your valuation.
Right.
And
There you
when
go.
I look at the flock,
Yeah.
it's a leader. He's in charge of the congregation, of the community. He's there to feed, protect, and give spiritual guidance to his flock. That's his intended purpose. And under the kingdom of God, they said skin color, social class, your ethnic background, your nationality has nothing to bear. And you told me about the Bible, John 10:16. And Jesus said, I have other sheep that are not in this sheep pen. I must bring them in also. There should be one flock and one shepherd. Okay. So he's bringing everybody in. He's providing guidance, assistance, and help to other people. Now look at this country. All we look at the Democrats and the Republicans. They both work in the same building. They both get the check from the same place. They both get the same amount of vacation and sick leave. They both have officers and staff. They both accept donations. They both don't tell the truth. They both attend meetings, and they both have leaders that they follow. The only difference between Republicans and Democrats is how they spend the money. That's it. How they spend the money. Because they're all the same. But to us, they look at each other and say, "You're wrong, no, you're wrong." And they point at each other and they say, "You're wrong." Now, if we look at our shepherd, he look at Donald Trump. He's our shepherd. What does he give to our flock? Donald Trump said, I'm going to sell you a Make America Great hat. I'm going to sell I'm going to sell you a sweatshirt. I'm going to sell you socks. I'm going to sell you books. I'm going to sell you signs. I'm going to sell you cell phones. I'm going to sell you books. I'm going to figurines, dolls. I'm going to sell you phone covers. I'm going to sell you laptop decals. I'm going to sell you stickers. I'm going to sell you Trump wine. I'm going to sell you Trump bottled water. I'm going to sell you Trump cologne. I'm going to sell you Trump watches. I'm going to sell you Trump Bibles. Now, that shepherd is saying,
Right.
that's what I'm going to get for my flock. Now, what is he giving to his flock?
Uh,
What's he giving to his flock? Now,
right. Right.
Jesus didn't ask the people to give me. He gave to the people. Now, he's the true shepherd. Now, Donald Trump, we know, everybody gave him the keys to the car, and he's running the country. And he said he won by 2 million votes. 2 million votes. He's good to people. He's good to his family. He's good to those who are around him. He's good to everybody in his circle. Now, if you're not in his circle, you don't belong. And that's his choice. If he wants to do that, that's fine. But the Hindus say all rich men, sooner or later, will become beggars. So he designs his own faith. For the number one thing above everything on this planet is kindness. It starts with the K. If you don't go with kindness, you go with karma. It starts with a K. So every rich man will become a beggar
Okay.
sooner or later. So when you look at politicians in Congress, they all belong, they're all on the same team. But they point to each other and say, this is how we should spend the money. That's the major difference between politicians, the Democrats and the politicians. And they say crime. I'll talk about crime. Chicago, 3 million people. 3 million people. 3 people die a day from shooting. 1.5 person dies a day from car accident. 1,000 people who got shot in Chicago. Crime is
So we're talking.
right. No, just in Chicago.
We're talking nationwide. We're talking
Just
about just in Chicago.
they
Okay, go
all
ahead.
to
Okay.
Chicago.
Okay, just in
I
Chicago.
said 2,000 people got shot in Chicago. That's almost 7 people a day. You got almost 3 million people living in the town, and 7 people get shot. And they go, that's black on black crime. And I say, yeah, you know why? Black people are shooting black people because you have gangs. And the reason why they shoot gangs is this is my block, that's your block. I want to sell on my block. You don't come on my. They sell because of monetary policy. They want to make money. They're not shooting you because you're Republican. They're not shooting you because you're a Democrat. They're not shooting because of your political beliefs. They're shooting you because of monetary status. Now you look at all the people that got, all the assassins that got shot that you wanted to talk about. You can look at all of those people. A lot of them were Republicans. They're shooting Republicans. Do you see Crips shooting Crips?
Oh yeah.
Do you see blood shooting blood? So if you look at the people that were involved in the shootings, they all have their own reason for being. There's a guy named Ryan Roth. He tried to kill Trump. They shot him. They shot him. He was a He was a Republicans. Guy named Thomas. They shot him. He tried to kill Trump. He was a registered Republican. Biden. And he follows Princess Kate. And the guy that shot the CEO for the healthcare, he shot because of the big corporations. So I got all the people who were doing the shootings,
Right.
but it wasn't because you on my block, I'm on your block, or you selling drugs, I'm not. They all have their own political beliefs. When you look at black
Right.
people, it's a different story. They're looking at, well, this is my block, that's your block. And we call the shooting, black people are only 14% of the population in this country. So if 100 people get shot, 13 should be from black people, assassination. If 50 people get shot, 6 should be from black people. 25 get shot, 3 should be from black. That's just based on numbers. And black people aren't involved with politics of that nature. What Snoop Dogg,
Right.
what's the rapper say? I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. And that's where he's coming from. So there's a difference in terms of violence, the reason why violence is taking place. But going back to your thing about the civil rights,
Right.
we made a lot of progress. When the rights were established, there was no black president. There was no black female,
That's
no
true.
black female Supreme Court justice. There was no
True.
black VP. So we made a lot of progress. But then when your hair grows, you get a haircut. Everything gets cut back. Then it's going to grow back. So for miracles to take place, you need difficulty. That is the ground for miracles. So, and if you look back,
Okay.
there was
Sounds
no
good.
Beyonce. There was no Beyonce. There was no Michael Jordan. There was no Magic Johnson. There was no LeBron James. It goes on and on and on.
But yeah, well, there was a Diana Ross. There was a a Stevie Wonder, Marvin
Right. And
was the James. It wasn't Jim. I'm just saying. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Now I just want to say this real quick. It says about the president having a felony. It says here, you can become president of the United States with a felony on your record, as there is no constitutional or federal law that prohibits. The Constitution outlines ability requirements, but a criminal record is not among them. These are all things that basically what we're told, but might not be true. Go ahead,
you know what? Yeah, it's not in the Constitution, but it's in the states.
Uh-huh.
Each state has its own barrier. Some states say you can't vote until you
Okay.
Constitution. Some states say you can't vote.
Well, of course, yeah,
So it
that's true.
belongs to the state. So the states use flexibility. It's like saying,
Yeah, well, as far as,
right.
yeah, right. Yeah, to your point, now, if you want to run for the president, it might not have any factors. In other words, if you're voting for myself, if I got a felony, okay, but I can run for. That's what I'm getting out of this. So I hear what you, yes, if you are in the state taking, I understand that. But in this particular case, that's what this is saying. You can run for president and be president even with a felony. So go ahead.
Or if you run for office, some states say you cannot run for office. You're prohibited from running for
Okay.
office because you have a
Okay.
felony. You can't hold office.
Okay.
State is different.
Okay.
So that's off. So with Donald Trump,
Right.
he blew that off.
But yeah, this is the state, right? We're talking about the state. Well, we're going to. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little research. We're going to as a fact check each other, right? Making sure we got this here right. That's all. I mean, because now is that according to this, you can actually run for president even with a felony. From your perspective, if you cannot vote if you're a felon. That's true for sure. But can you actually run for president even even if you ain't it's federal? You're running from all the states. So I mean, there's actually this thing. Obviously, without a question, there was some loophole because he is the of America with 34 felonies. So I mean, and but I guess the key is why would someone vote for him after all the things that he has done and said? Why would a person say, like for example, if I got a dog that's me, what makes me think that the dog stop biting? I mean, the dog bites me. If he bit me once, I don't think that I should stop him from never doing it again. The dog probably would do it. So that's my take on it. But yeah, go ahead.
Who are the voters? The voters look and say, I have two choices. I can vote for a female. I can vote for a male. Now, who are they going to vote for? A female or a male? Who are they going to vote for?
Well, in this country, as far as it's concerned, it's been 100% because male got the president. It hasn't been a situation. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I'm right about this. There's only one guy that ran against females, and it was Donald Trump. Out of 3-time president, 2 of his Democratic opposition, and he beat both of them.
Right.
He beat both of them.
And if you look at the past, Ted, the female voting act to let females vote, guess who was the major opposition to females voting? Females. Doctors with high education, they were the major opposition to letting females vote. But one guy,
Okay.
they had a vote on it, and one, it was always it was already fixed. The one guy who was going to vote, his mom was in the hospital, and she asked him to change his mind. So he did that one vote, let females vote. Okay, they were the major opposition, females. In the Confederate Army, they had 3,000 black people that fought for the Confederacy. 3,000 black people that fought for the Confederacy. So a lot of times your opposition comes from your own party. And when it comes to the DEI, it's not about black people. It's not about minorities. It's about women. The 500, the Fortune 500 companies have 55 women in charge, 11%. So if you use DEI, there should be 250 CEIs in the Fortune, but no, we only got 55. And what's taking place, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Apple are eliminating the long held belief that you need a college degree to get a job. That's gone. That is gone. And other firms are running and say, we agree, you don't need a college job to join. And guess why they changed that, Ted? Guess who's getting the college degrees? More women than men.
The women.
Right. In the past, it was men getting degrees and now women. But since more women are getting degrees, DEI is gone, and you don't need a degree to join Apple before you did, to join Google before you did, to join IBM before you did, to join Apple before you did. But now you don't need a degree because there are more females getting the degrees. So the man always wants to maintain his position. And, it's self preservation. And when the voters went to the poll, you have two choices. You have your nose on both ends. You said both ends don't smell right, but you got to make a choice. And there's 338 million people in this country, Ted. And I think 178 voted. And Donald Trump won by 2 million people. 2 million people. It wasn't a
Yeah.
big landslide. A lot of people, they said they
No,
saw what was coming. But to get ahead, to let your hair grow, to get growth, you gotta get it cut. And Donald Trump is the barber of the hair. And he's doing that in time. He's doing people a favor. He doesn't realize that. He's doing people a favor. Because out of difficulties is what grows miracles. So Howard Hoover did the same thing in 1919, 1920 to black people out of the office. You can't have this office. And what happened after he did that? Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Michael Jordan, the list goes on and on and on. But if he didn't do that, we may not have a Barack Obama. We may not have a VP that was black. We may not have a female black. We may not have a lot of things. But because he did that, God stepped in and says, okay, there's two things. You can give kindness or you can get karma. The choice is yours. Which one do you want? You want to give karma or do you want to give kindness? And karma doesn't come out of anything good. It's when you hurt somebody, karma comes out. When you give kindness, you get blessed. So it's your choice. God sits back and says, you make the choice. And when people are negative, racist, biased, it's a good thing. And for example, in this country, if you have a good home, you don't want to have a homeless shelter next to your home. You say, why? Because the value of my home will go down. I worked 40 years to get this house. I maintained this house. It looks nice. Great. And you bring someone who doesn't have a job, who doesn't go, who doesn't have a place to live, who may not be of the same background as you, it's going to bring the value of your property down. So you're going to say, hold it. I don't want that person here. I don't want that person anywhere near me. And God said, and Moses says, the man that's hungry, if you feed him, you feed God. And the man that's hungry comes to your house, knocks on your door, get out of here. I spent 40 years getting this house. I went to my job 8 hours a day for 40 years. I did hard work. I earned this house. So you got to do what I did. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Get out of here. And the man who's hungry leaves. And the guy who has the house, I'm glad I got rid of him. And God just sits back and says, okay, it's your choice. Your choice. Now, since you didn't give kindness, you're going to get karma. You're going to get karma. And sooner or later, you be in the same spot. The guy knocked on your door. And you told me, Ted, those that are first will be last. Those that are last will be first. And that's how it is. Now, I can't criticize Donald Trump. He's doing what he thinks is right. Every man is innocent in his own eyes. The Republicans are good people. They pay their mortgage. They take care of their family. They don't shoot anybody. They don't really hurt anybody. You have people that on the outskirts who don't take their medication, and you get those results. But for the most part, Republicans, they go to church. They pray to God. They take care of their kids. They take care of their family. They go to their job. They do their work, and they don't want anybody to bother them. And they want someone that looks like them to be next to them. And I understand their position. So I can't criticize or make any judgment. That belongs to the man upstairs. And I said, God, what are you going to do? He said, can you spell karma? I said, yes. And just sit back and watch. You may not see it today. You may not see it tomorrow, but it's going to come back. And when it comes back, you'll see what takes place. Look at England. Look at Britain, France, Spain. They got 4,000 at the bottom of the ocean that will bring in gold and silver to South America. And those ships are Trump. And they're in the bottom of the ocean today. Today. They took all the gems of South America and took them to Portugal, took them to France, took them to England and Spain. Where are those countries today? They were number one back then because back then wood was number one component because you use wood to build ships. And when you build your ships, you put men on the ships and you mobilize your army, which is why they were able to capitalize Africa and South America because they had wood. And that's why they came to this country and why they came to Canada because of the trees. Now, today, ships are not made of trees. You don't have ships made of trees. So it says sooner or later, the rich man will become the beggar. And that's how karma works. So we look at Donald Trump and what the Republicans are doing. You say, wow, the hungry are not getting fed. They're cutting programs. People are losing their jobs. And when you lose your job, you lose your house, your car payment, your kids' college fund. You lose a lot of different things. And it's difficulty. But out of that difficulty will rise miracles. And miracles are what you need to keep going in life. You need a miracle. And that comes from the hand of God. Hand of God.
Right. Well, we've established that for sure. We also established that if you have a felony in this country, you can run and become president of the United States, even if you have a felony. That's what it says here. It says it in one place.
Right.
And become president with a felony. The
Right.
question was, we talked about it after that.
Ted,
how can you become? How can you be president? How can you be president felony, the answer is because you can. That's it.
And see what takes place. Each state gives out a ballot, and to become on the office, that ballot has to be completed. Now, if you committed a crime, they won't issue or put your name on the ballot. That's on the state. You can run nationwide, but the ballot, Minnesota has their own ballot, New York has their own ballot, California has their own ballot. And the person in charge of voting distributes the ballot, and they determine who qualifies to get on the ballot. And in prior times, to get people out of the process, if you had a conviction, you were omitted from the process. You couldn't vote and you could not hold office. If you look at employment positions, Ted, if you apply for a job to watch kids, if you have a conviction involving child molest or child pornography, you cannot get into that position. If you apply for a position as a we call it a person that does the accounting, CPA or a
Right,
CPA position, if you have
right,
a conviction for
right.
fraud involving,
A fraud, a fraud, a
it
fraud.
will
Yeah,
not accept you
yeah.
for that position. So a lot of jobs say involving our industry, you cannot be just like daycare. They won't hire any sexual offenders. They won't hire any child molesters. They won't hire anybody that has any type of offense involving another human beings. If you mistreated your wife, your girlfriend, sexual assault, you cannot engage in that employment activity. It blocks you from doing that. And a felony blocks you from all kind of things. That's why people say, I can't get a job. And they go, when you look at your employment application, did you commit a crime? If so, what crime did you commit? Oh, and what did you serve? And that's a red flag. Like you said, if a dog bit you and you close the door and you open up the door and a dog still, another dog looks like it, well, based on the prior episode, I'm not going to let that dog in because I was bit before. This could be a complete different dog, but that memory stays with me. I'm not going to let him in. So, and what happens is this is daycare, and you hired Joe, and Joe has a felony, has a conviction for child molest. He does it again. Guess who's going to get sued? Guess who's going to be liable for that? That's why the attorney said if they have a conviction involving that industry, do not bring them in. Otherwise, you will be liable, you will be sued, and they will take everything from you because you should have done your due diligence to not let that person into this office. Like I said, if you have a daycare and you hire someone that has child molest and they do it again, the parents are going to sue you for everything you got because you knew before you hired that person, they committed a felony involving that activity. Same with accounting, same with
Right.
doctors, all positions that when you fill out the application, do you have a conviction of any type? And if so, what was it? How much time did you serve? Because that's going to stop you from getting in the door. And that was the same excuse.
Right. Well, here's another.
Go ahead.
Well, here's another thing. The thing is also because I know a person who applied for a job and did in fact the job, and the person has felonies
Right.
on their record. How back in years. So he was saying, okay, I applied for a job, but I don't have to work. And he had two jobs. And he's no longer on parole. So of course he's not a felon
I did.
because even though it says you had, even though it says felony on your record, the fact of the matter is that you're not on parole says you can't just say anything. Okay, I can vote. because he said, matter of fact, he said he voted for Obama. He said he voted for. He said he voted for Obama, or he said he voted for somebody, and he said he could vote because no longer on paper as a felon, so he in fact gets ballots through the mail. Okay, sir. Go
Right.
ahead.
Yeah. I worked
That's
at DMV one. I worked, I worked at DMV one time. I worked in personnel. The guy came to me and said, we have, it was seasonal. We have all these vacancies. He said, you know anybody needs jobs? So I told my sister, my brother-in-law, I told them I all got jobs. And my friend, he said his brother just got out of Folsom Prison. And guess what? He got a job. He said, thank you, Heman. I said, you got a job because I had that discretion to bring him in. Now, what I'm saying about people getting a job, yeah, you can, it's up to them. But once again, if you bring someone in that has a violation or a criminal record involving that industry that you're doing, and they commit that same crime, you can be solved. Now, they can bring you in, but the lawyer will say, next time, don't hire someone who's in that same position because you could be liable. Now, they can bring him in. I worked in an attorney's office, and they said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So it's up to the employer's discretion, but many times they said no, because I talked to my lawyer, and if he does it again, and there's another party involved, I could be sued. But you're right, they can, but each state is different. I think in Joe Biden's state, you can't vote at all. Other places, if you make restitution, you can vote. Other
mm,
states, if you finish probation, you can vote. There are some states that say you can't. It's up to the states. Now, when you run for the office of the president, each
right.
state has a ballot. Now, if they keep you off the ballot in Arizona, keep you off the ballot in Florida, and you only on the ballot in 23 states, are you going to become the president of the United States? So each state determines, right, you need how many electoral college votes to win. So if you don't get that, 270, if you don't get that, you don't cross that barrier, which is why Donald Trump put the
Right.
5 Supreme Court justices because he knew he had a slim majority. You go back in time in the year 2000 between Bush and Gore, who decided that race? The Supreme Court. And Donald Trump knew he had a very slim margin. So he put it and see the lady named Ginsburg, when Barack went to her and said, it's about time, said, about time, if she had Barack, it'd be a whole different story. Because he would have put somebody in her place and they had another vacancy that what's the name that wouldn't let him kill. The country is 50-50. You put the Supreme Court, and if it comes to that, the Supreme Court will decide who sits in that office. And right now, he's getting used to having troops sent to your state. And why are they troops sent to your state? In case the election doesn't go your way and you can say, it was rigged. I'm going to send troops in. They're going to take all those ballots. All those ballots. In the last election, he said, I only need 1,800 votes in Florida. So they're getting ready. And then
Right.
to be the president for the third time, that has never been tested. Is he going to be president twice? If he tries to test it, it goes to the Supreme
Well,
Court. It goes to the Supreme Court because no one ever said, that's the law. Forget the law. I'm going to do it my way. If that's what he does regarding his third term, who's going to decide whether that law stands or not? The Supreme Court, which is why they have 5 people. And guess what the ironic part is? They're all Catholic. And the people that left England to establish the country left England because they were Catholic. They wanted religious freedom. So they left England to come to this country for religious. First they went to Holland and left Holland for good because they were trying to get away from the Catholic Church in England. And today we have 5 Supreme Justices who are Catholic.
I know that.
So that's just the way. Yeah, but they're getting ready because Donald Trump is going to contest that rule that you can only serve 2 times. He's going to say, forget it. Has there been any rule that he said?
So let me ask this question. So, and Obama says, well, I come back.
Obama's not going to run against him.
I mean, he should say, look,
Obama's making money.
I mean, Donald Trump, he's making more money than in history. He's a grifter. He's up there raping right now.
Right.
He's got people paying him down with him for what? Dinner?
He has more money. He has more money than all the presidents combined. Okay. Now, Steven Spielberg, he has more money than Trump. And what does he do? He makes movies. And what's Barack and Michelle doing?
Okay.
They're making movies. Okay. Now, Donald Trump sells hats, shoes, mugs, all that. But is he making the movies? Bill Cosby's still getting paid. Executive producer, he's still getting paid. Barack and Michelle, they're glad Trump's doing what he's doing because he's making money, which means they can make money, which means it hasn't been done before. And Trump is breaking all the rules. Trump is doing what all the Democrats wish they could have done. And guess what, Ted? There are more Democrats than there are Republicans. So at the end of the day, who's going to benefit from all the rules that were broken by Mr. Trump? Right now, you have the tortoise. The tortoise is way out front. But in time, who's going to pass the hare? The tortoise. But at the present time, we said, look at the tortoise, look at the hare go. Hare's gone. He's way out in front. But having patience, I may not see it. My grandkids might see it. But when the hare takes a nap, there goes the tortoise right by the hare. And it's going to say, I'm benefiting from that. And they're going to benefit from what Donald Trump is doing. Everybody that's going to benefit, they don't see it now. But they will benefit, and it will be the people who are last. Because for them to be first, they have to go through difficulties. And Donald Trump is putting the groundwork for difficulties. And they will benefit from all the that are being. We don't see it now. When Michael Jordan was running at North Carolina at night, running 6 miles, he had no idea what he would be. But he was paying the price, running midnight run, they call it. He's playing basketball in North Carolina. They go run 6 miles at midnight. When I was playing basketball against you, I was running 20 miles a day just to play basketball. I had the height.
Okay.
I had the desire. While Wimland Park 7 times a day. And when I
remember playing basketball in Wimland Park. Chipped my
right. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No worries. Hey, look, we're gonna.
Okay, go ahead.
Smith, we're going to close the show for right now because I'm going to keep this within an hour. But look, we have all our audience, so don't forget to subscribe. Interesting guy. He will be okay. And we'll further the conversation. With that being said, thanks for tuning in. Until the next one, God bless.
Thank you, Ted. Have a great day, sir.
Okay. You as well, sir.
Okay. See.